Sudhir, you are live.
Very good evening, everyone. Welcome to another special disruptive education live session with Global Education and Training Institute. I'm your host, Sudhir Kumar, for today. Our guest speaker for today is Mrs. Seema Varma. Mrs. Seema is a professionally qualified educator. She is an MA and BEd with over 24 years of experience in school leadership and teaching. She has collaborated with international research labs like Johns Hopkins School of Education to develop teacher training program for early years rooted in research and practical experience. Mrs. Seema has been an educator and education entrepreneur, having run her own preschool called Little World that received great acclaim in a brief period of time. She has been donning different hats in leadership capacity in Intelitodes over last 7 years before joining KLAY Prep School and Daycare. So I'm very pleased to welcome Mrs. Seema Varma for today's session. Very good evening, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sudhir. Thank you so much for your kind words and a very, very warm welcome. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to all my fellow comrades of education. And I'm sure there are other people from all walks of life, education people, leaders from other this thing. So I'm really, really happy to be addressing all of you, and especially in these times where all of us are grappling with this harsh reality of making things work, not just for us, but also for our children. So, and education is really become very, very disruptive. But disruptive education is also giving us opportunities to make great changes, right? And even though there is so much of upsurge, but there is an equal amount of uproar also as to how digital world is going to impact our children, how our children are going to get impacted away from their schools, away from their peers, away from their friends, family, extended family, and how they are coping up at home. So these are some of the things that require a great amount of reflection on both as facilitators as well as educationists as to how in these crucial times can we support children in their learning, in their development, in their social and emotional journey through these times. Because if we look at the scenario right now, all the external platforms are disbanded, right? Our homes have become our commune, the single multi-dimension, multifunctional unit of learning. It is here that all of us are converging. You know, we have our own learning spaces, we have our own competing priorities, our schedules, and everything that we work on. And amidst all this, children are also there. While we have children of all age groups in our homes, some of them are engaged in online learning, formal school learning, and about half a day of them goes by in this learning. But what about very young children? Children who are still not equipped enough to handle themselves on their own. There are children, young children who are not even able to speak up and express their feeling. What about those children? And children, older children also, they are going through their own journey, coming to terms with these times, with these disturbing times where they are seeing so much which is not said. They are trying to process so much which they are not able to understand. They are not able to figure out what is happening. So in these times, how do we support this? So this is the major question, why there has been ongoing data and ongoing research. But, the standpoint from where we are as educators, from the standpoint of I know, today as educators, we are also feeling as though there is something new to learn, because we don't know, we don't have all the perfect answers. We are still coming to terms with this digital learning. We still want to connect with our children who are away from their schools. So more and more important and more critical now it is becoming the importance of primacy relationship, which is about having that connect, not just with children, but as well as with the family members. So as educators, we need to understand how much more important it is in this time to really support our children in this journey. So there are some of the things that I really wanted to talk about, as parents and as educators, is something while we are trying to work around in our homes, we also need to understand that we do not need to become full-time teachers, right? There are subject matter experts who are there to support us. So our job is not to become a full-time teacher for our children. Our job is not to create a new curriculum apart from the curriculum that comes from school and that comes from the formal school. But our job is to create that safe and happy environment for children, to give them time to adapt themselves with this new change that is happening, to create a learning environment, not to focus so much on perfection, because I would just like to say, let perfect not come in the way of creating good. So we are just doing fine. We need to be very kind to ourselves, and we need to be kind to our children. So more than anything, at this point of time, I think collectively our collaborative effort should be to tap into a reservoir of patience, kindness, compassion, empathy, and assertiveness as to how things need to move around. And when I say assertiveness, I mean it in a very positive manner. And also really think of very common practices that can help children evolve within the confine of their homes. So when I say that help children evolve, is that help children come to terms with this reality, which is here to stay. And many, more often than not, sometimes we shy away from talking to children about what is happening in and around. While we do not need to share all the statistics and figures and the gory details that is happening, but we can definitely talk about that these are unprecedented times. These are times which even we as adults have not seen so far in our life, right? So this is something that is very, very new to us. And each one of us, apart from adults, like we are processing, it is much easier for us to process all this. It is while we understand that there is physical isolation, there is economic paralysis, but there is also that awareness that we have to now coexist with this threat of this pandemic, which is here to stay. We do not know for how long. Now, this coexistence is, as adults, we are able to figure out and process. But how do we equip our children to understand that what does it mean to coexist, and what does it mean, so that they are not burdened by fear. They are not burdened by fear of the unknown. And this is where I think parents and educators play a great, very, very important role. And if I were to give you an analogy, when we board an aircraft, so when the steward tells us that if the air cabin pressure drops, first you have to put the mask yourself and then help your child, right? So I think we need to take care of ourselves first. We need to come to terms and process our emotions, because emotions are contagious, right? If we are in a happy state, then we will be imparting the same feeling to our children, the feeling of well-being, the feeling of confidence, the feeling of being looked after, feeling of being secure. But if we ourselves are in a state of, a very turbulent state of mind, then children pick up these signs, right? Even though we do not speak to our children, but they understand. And as primary caregivers, their whole being is wired to our well-being and to our emotions. So always let's try and be happy for our children, and let's come up with innovative ways to give them multiple challenges through the day, small tasks depending on the age group, to keep them busy, to keep them engaged, and to keep them happy, and also maybe connect them through digital and technology. We are very fortunate that we are able to connect. I mean, imagine a couple of years back, if technology was not there and this pandemic would have come, what would have been our state? I mean, today
Cannot even imagine that.
Yes. So in a way, technology is now working to our advantage with all its pitfalls that earlier we used to say that it's like kind of taken over. But in these times, technology is the biggest boom. So let's try and use that very constructively, very judiciously, to help our parents, help our children connect with each other and maintain that feeling of well-being and feeling of being safe because sometimes, when children, their feelings go unexpressed, there are symptoms like somatization happens, right? So there is that that feeling of despair, that feeling of not getting up in the morning, not feeling like taking a bath, or not sitting for breakfast on time, or not sitting and doing your homework. So these are some of the unsaid feelings that happen. So routine is very, very important. Routine for ourselves and routine for our children. So it is kind of hard when you don't have anything to look forward to and not to step out of home. Probably, I think routine takes a back seat. So, kind of getting up and having breakfast on time, and probably involving children in chores, all kinds of chores, right? Household chores. There are multiple things that children can support us, because when we give them small, small tasks, we are strengthening their agency. We are actually telling children that you are responsible and you can accomplish tasks. And these small, small accomplishments will really set them on a path of, facing any challenge. So coping skills are very, very important at this point in time, where the world is centered around homes, while subject matter experts and teachers, we are all doing so much. But parents need to be very, very mindful of this, and they really need to create an ecosystem within the house and reach out to schools, reach out to educators, reach out to other people who are able to support them in their journey. Right? All of us do not have all the answers, but together we can figure out some of the things that each one of us is good at, and some of the things that is our core domain area. So these are some of the things that probably I think we will be talking about today, and we will also would like to hear from you, your thoughts, your suggestions, and your feedback. So, yes,
Definitely. So
yes.
one thing I just want to ask, ma'am, from you, sorry, that sometimes that children are too small to express that what they are feeling emotionally, or even sometimes the elder one, they don't want to share. They don't, so how as parent we can understand and support our children?
Yeah. So the key thing is communication. Key thing is how do we encourage children to share their feelings will only come when we share their feelings with them. Sometimes, we feel that my child is just 2 years old or 3 years old. Will my child understand if I'm saying that mom has a headache, or she doesn't feel like getting up and making dinner? So I feel maybe my child is too young to understand. But my child may be too young to understand what I'm talking about, but my child will understand that where is this feeling coming from. Is it, if it is lethargy, if it is tiredness, or if it is something that my mom is maybe feeling upset today or angry today, it is all right to do so. But what my child will also see and understand is that even if I'm angry, I would not manifest my anger in a negative manner, because my parents do not do it. So children love to imitate. So as parents and facilitators, our role is to give them something really great to imitate. When they see us processing our feelings in a positive manner, they will feel comfortable and safe to come and share their feelings also, because then they will be able to relate that it is all right, my dad also feels angry, my mom also feels upset. There are days when my mom doesn't like to get out of bed. Probably, there are days when she's also watching television, or my dad is watching television, maybe beyond the time that is supposed to. So it is all right. So when we empathize with children, when we put ourselves in their shoes, because we have to remember, even though if children are not able to express themselves, they are adults in their own universe, right? There are things that they are not able to discern. There are things that they are not able to process. And there are some things which are not even appropriate for them to process. So as parents and facilitators, we are the people who will set them into the right, set the right perspective for them. And we will clarify, things that are not unsaid. Because, in my journey as a facilitator, last 30 years, I have seen that, if a child is throwing a tantrum or a child is crying, the child is actually, when we say tantrum, the child is actually trying to communicate that you are not understanding what I'm trying to say. So I do not know any other way. I can only cry because I cannot speak, right? So I can only probably throw a tantrum or throw a book or throw a toy because I don't know how else to make you understand. So children are like that. So sometimes, and when children are slightly older, the peer influence is higher than the parents in teenage years, especially. So, they like to share with their friends more than with their parents, but it's all right. I mean, as long as they understand that as parents, we are there for them. When they need our support, we should be there. Otherwise, we should become their biggest cheerleaders. So, continue talking to children about your daily chores, about your work at home, about how it kind of irritates us sometimes, how it kinds of gets the better of us, how it kind of extends. Everything is, it has to come from a standpoint of honesty and transparency. When we are honest and transparent with our children, then we will help them to cope up with their fears and tears. And they are going to then feel comfortable coming and talking to us. And apart from that, even if we see such signs, something that we are not able to address, there are again subject matter experts. Do not wait. Please do not wait if there is something that as parent our instinct is telling us, or as facilitators our instinct is telling us that a child, probably this is something that I'm not able to address. Maybe a third person or an expert in that matter can help us put things in perspective and maybe help us resolve for that situation. Yeah.
You have actually put the thought very beautifully, like when the children's they show tantrum, so somehow they are trying to communicate. Most of the parents, and they don't understand that thing. So very nicely said. I hope that our audience actually got their answer regarding that. So
Yes.
that comes to my next question, is that how can we help our children cope up with the current situation? I know that you gave a small information about it, that be honest with them, clearly communicate, because even they are confused. But this is a once in a lifetime thing. Means we are being the part of history now, right? Whatever we are facing. So how to communicate, how to make them understand that how you have to cope up, because they want to go out, they want to play, they want to meet their friends. So what's your view on that?
So again, make it as simple and as honest as possible. Share with them that how, as adults, we are also not going out. We are also coping with it. It is kind of difficult for us to work from home. It is kind of difficult for us to schedule everything and juggle everything with competing priorities. Play games with them, because sometimes when we are playing games with them, we teach them very quite leadership qualities. So more than ever right now, the whole shift has become to build on these character strengths, to build on resilience, to build on kindness, to build on compassion. And when children understand that what is happening in and around the world and they are not alone, talk to them about how countries are dealing with it. Right now, our children are very, very aware. With technology in their palms, they know much more than us many a times. They will become our teachers. Let's try and learn from them. There are so many things that they can teach us. Like even now, I struggle with technology, and my daughter teaches me how to. In fact, she taught me how to log on to this platform because I had never heard of it. So there are so many things that children can teach us, and let them become our teachers for a little while, and talk to them about how people have been facing difficult times, how all sections are going through this problem, all sectors are going through problem. So there is another thing, teach them, I would say, talk to them about being grateful, right? We have a lot of equity issues here, especially in our country. Our children are really fortunate that they have access to device, right? There are so many people who do not have access to online teaching because they do not have devices in their homes. And there are sometimes parents who are trying to juggle with technology, to providing technology device to their children because they have their own schedules, work schedules and everything. So talk to children about what they have rather than what they don't have, how their acts of kindness, how people in and around are supporting during this pandemic and creating a cause for victory. and how people are rising above, in their own spheres and doing such great work. Talk to them about these positive things that, this pandemic is not letting people get the worse for them. Rather than it is helping people get the better of them. People are uniting, people are doing so much more. And we can also tell them that this is a very, very temporary phase. This is a phase that is going to pass, and they will very soon be united and they will be able to go out on their own. So, reading storybooks, and now we have, storybooks on how to manage COVID. So there is an Indian government has MHRD has come up with a site which is called Manodarpan. So that has a repository of stories, of online resources and games that can be played with children. But yes, do talk to them and tell them, while there is a whole data which is coming up on the negative impact of COVID, there is also a huge, huge positive side to it. So when we focus on what we have rather than what we do not have, children start changing their own perspective and moving towards positive feeling.
Nice, ma'am. And this is a good piece of information which you have shared, like Manodarpan, the
Yes.
program initiated by the government. So,
Yes.
can you give us some more information about it, what it is exactly, and how it is helping children and parents to, cope up in this situation?
So this site is by MHRD, and this has a lot of repository, and they are updating because, of course, you see the government is also gearing up now with new learning tools. So this has been something that they are really preparing, and they are making useful to all children and available to everybody. The online content where parents can also reach out and they can look into the repository. They are planning to upload stories in all regional languages, audios and videos, so that parents can look into that, because we completely understand we do not have the most optimal resources for our children, right? Because we operate out of our homes. So it is not like an environment where school has very age appropriate and interest specific resources all suited for the child's development. Our homes have limited resources. So but this online portal is there, and we can go over there and we can reach out, and there is a helpline also, and there are facilitators and counselors over there which are ready to support us should we require that. So the whole idea of creating a repository like this was to have learning very accessible, affordable, and acceptable by all sectors. So this is a huge initiative, and they are every day they are updating that. Yeah.
Very true, very true. So, thank you for sharing that information with us, ma'am. So, another question is that what kind of conversation should we have with our children to keep them upbeat or motivated and enthusiastic about the day?
I think as normal as possible, if you were to ask me, nothing very fancy, but setting context and setting expectation. Uh, if I were to say that as an adult, if suddenly my teammates or my manager would give me something out of the blue, that this is your task for today, leave everything aside and just do it without any constant, uh, I will be able to process it with my executive functions, right? But the child will not be able to accept it and would understand, why has my routine changed? Why are things not going back? Why do I not get ready, pick up my bag, go to school? Why is my snack box not ready? So expectation setting is very, very important. So if we talk to our children and we tell them that this phase is there, we are going to take each day as it comes, and every day we are going to have a routine. This is what I am going to do. This is your space. This is where I expect you to work around and to learn, or to go to online for online coaching. And this is where then in the afternoon we are going to do this, and then in the evening we are going to do this. This kind of helps children put things in perspective. So expectation setting is very, very important with children. And like I said, to talk to them about everyday affairs, helps them to realize that they are important part of the family. and they are not just treated like a children to say, oh, you will not understand, or you do not disturb me, or probably, I have, and this is again through experience. I have had moms coming and telling me that you were right, that my child is just 3 year old, but every day I was telling my child that mama needs to go for half an hour on this call, and please do not disturb me. I would be happy if you would sit and play in the living room. And about 4 5 times later, the same moms that came and told us that the child very well understood and would not disturb for that 30 minutes, because the child realized that what my mom is saying is something very, very important. And the consistency of conversation and the uniformity and the tone that which we talk to children, treating them as adults, go a long way in setting the right kind of expectation.
Very true, very true. And I think that we sometimes mistake that kids do not understand, but they are the
Yes,
more the most observant people we have around us. They notice the
yes,
most minute thing we could not even imagine to observe. So this is a very
yes,
nice point which you have just stated. So, ma'am,
yes.
what about the social interaction? Like, the online classes are going on these days, and teachers are giving their best to ensure that learning does not stop. But
Hmm.
the small kids, they need to learn to socialize. So social interaction is the most critical aspect, which is not possible in the current scenario. So will it have a long lasting impact on the kids who are growing up in this pandemic situation? Because even when they join back these schools, they could not interact in the similar manner they used to interact with their their classmates.
Sure. Yeah, I think things will definitely change. The whole education sector is going to change at the way we look at education, and we will have to reimagine. We'll have to reinvent ourselves. And also with these online digital classes, like I said, there is so much of upsurge and uproar. So there is always that debate going on whether we need to augment it or whether we need to supplement it. But the fact remains that right now there is no other option. Online learning is the only medium by which we can connect to children and to support their learning, especially for older children. But yes, younger children, there is research that says that below 2 years, children should not be you know uh, shown the digital path, and even 2 to 5 years, the digital interaction for children, or the digital citizenship for children, if I would say, should be restricted to more than 30 minutes to an hour. Now, in that 30 minutes to an hour, how do we plan for their learning to understand that their learning is not compromised? So there is something that we have to remember. Children have innate intrinsic drive in them to learn, right? They are learning in varying conditions under all kinds of environment. So even when they are at home, they are learning from our kitchen cabinets of pots and pans. They're learning about sound of music, right? Very young children. And they're getting their hands messy, and they're having their ultimate sensorial experience. They are also, lying down on the bed and watching that dance of dust particles coming through that shaft of sunlight through the window, and that's absolutely magical for them. So they are learning. While this learning may not be very structured, of a preschool environment, or for a formal school environment, but yes, there are enough tools available where we can support the learning. The language and literacy part is something that can be supported by taking help from subject matter experts, and also reading stories to them, establishing a bedtime routine with our children, young children. So that will really help them not only to expand their vocabulary, but also to support their learning and to transport them to characters, to people, places in the world, and set the right context for them. So it is definitely a gap right now. But to say that whether it will have a long lasting impact, I would rather say on a positive note that as human beings, we are very adaptable. We rise over everything. So while we do not have data to say, because we are still part of it and research is going on, and we are also learning and figuring out how to bridge that gap. So educators and facilitators are trying to make care calls, trying to have live sessions, connect with children, so that that emotional connect is maintained. As parents, what we can do is that we can have our children connect with their friends on a on through the digital app, digital device, or through phone calls, or maybe just connect them to their grandparents, to their extended family. So some kind of socialization can happen digitally, but yes, there is that virtual barrier which is there. Physical isolation is there. So we have to do the best that we can right now in this. At our own end, it is left to us to have those meaningful conversations with them, because we have this critical window of opportunity. Right now, everybody's talking about the negative impact of this pandemic. But look at the other positive side. We are all together, right? So, with our families, we are safe under our houses. So, this is a huge opportunity to reconnect, to really understand each other, to understand how to coexist, and to really support each other in this journey, because we are all going through different phases, right? For each one of us, whether our children or whether us. So that is the only way forward.
Actually, while you were telling me these points, so one idea came into my mind. What about the digital party? That kids can plan digital party along with their friends, and they all would be dressed nicely and good
Yes,
music on the Zoom session.
yes, yes,
They can do that. I can even imagine that yeah, this is a quite a possibility which they can
yeah,
enjoy and even
and
connected.
absolutely. And our children are already doing that. We don't need to
Oh,
tell them
that's
to do
great.
that. They
Wonderful.
already,
And even connecting with the extended family member over the Zoom call.
yes,
I've heard from many of my friends that they surprisingly planned the Zoom call along with their, the elders who are not very much familiar with these,
yeah,
technology these days. So even they were quite happy to see each and everyone's face, and that
yes,
this kind of trend is going on these days.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
that's a wonderful thing, ma'am, which you have just told. So as a facilitator, as an educational expert, what can we do to support our children these days? And as you have mentioned, that parents should not stop themselves from seeking help from the experts. So,
yes.
but still they feel hesitant about these things. So, what would you like to say to them?
So, see, from facilitators' point of view, also, I know there is so much of hard work going on, because right now, even for us, it was unknown territory. As teachers, we were very adept at classroom teaching, right? We knew our subject matter, we knew how to go about it, we knew how to teach children. Now we have to connect with children. We are also facing the limitation of not getting the response on time, not having that interaction, one-to-one interaction. So, but teachers across the world, I think, are doing marvelous job coming up the learning curve, and trying to equip themselves with technology and having these wonderful sessions. What we can really do is to remember that social interaction, education and learning and social interaction is something that we are good at, and we will continue to do that. Right now, the digital medium is there in front of us, so we have to use it to our advantage to connect with children the way that we can. And also, let's remember that the emotional well being and the resilience in children and family as a unit is something that, as facilitators, we can support. Because we have often heard, even in our PTMs, if we have been teachers, I'm sure, our parents have been coming and telling us, if you say as a teacher, the child will listen to you. But if I say as a parent, the child will not listen. So we have a huge, huge impact on our children. And we have a huge impact on the way we are going to shape up education in the coming times. So the responsibility is upon us, and we are just doing fine. Like I tell my parents, please be kind to yourself. So I would like to reach out to all you facilitators to say, you're doing a marvelous job. Continue to build on to that emotional connect with all your students, and continue to work around, because in any case, teaching and learning is what we do best, right? So nobody can take that away from us, and we will continue to create our magic. wherever we are.
Definitely, definitely, ma'am. And no one can take that. That's the reason teachers are called the nation builders, not the engineers,
Yes,
not the doctors. That's the reason
yes,
teacher has been called the nation builders. So wonderful
yes,
thought, ma'am. So I think it's time to read out the comments, and I can see some lovely response on our,
yes,
on the session on whatever you were stating to us. So Ruchi Gera said, "Good evening." Dr. Meenu Bhatnagar, good evening, ma'am. Elizabeth Thomas, great to see you, Seema. So I'm just looking out for some questions.
yes,
Okay, so Sarita Rotagi, she has asked
yes,
that today the nuclear family must be wishing they were living in a joint family where children get more attention and learn from their grandparents, as nowadays grandparents are also educationally well read. So
yes.
yes, it's a great point. So yes,
Yes,
ma'am, please.
yes, and um, grandparents. I mean, people are fortunate if they have grandparents, right? If their children have grandparents, because for us parents who are so caught up in their own schedules and priorities, our conversations become very transactional with our children. And grandparents are the people who really impart values to our children, right? So they are the ones who tell us narratives and stories and folk tales and singing, dancing, and indulging all their grandchildren with all for all their whims and fancies, and really create that environment of happiness, being loved, and that warmth. So grandparents do that. Yes, some of us in urban cities. Live in nuclear families and our grandparents are far away, but it is all right. I mean, this is the time where each one of us has to be safe at home, has to be well, has to be together, and has to be happy. So let us connect our children. So this is another opportunity where they can connect to their grandparents on a daily basis. Probably to hear a story, or to hear a folk tale, or to hear a song, or maybe to help them cook a recipe, a fireless cooking, or something which is very simple and basic for them to be. Like I said, grandparents have so much of patience with the grandchildren, right? Much more than us parents. So definitely, yes, it is there.
Totally agree with you on this, ma'am. And one from Dr. Meenu Bhatnagar. She says, sometimes when we share, they learn, you are right, ma'am, and they take care of you too. Yes, that's true.
Yes. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So again, I think I would just like to recap is that there are some of the things that we need to remember. One is as parents and as facilitators, we are doing the best that we can. We must remember that we are also learning as we are taking each day. Each day is providing us new learning opportunities. So the first thing to do is to accept the new pace, to accept that this new kind of environment is here to stay, and we really need to make the best that we can. We need to look at progress, not perfection, and on a daily basis from one day to another. What is it that we have achieved in terms of our family as a unit, in terms for our children, in terms for us as individuals and professionals. So progress, not perfection. Create a routine. Definitely, a routine is going to help. Create some kind of routine. Take our time. Let us not get impatient to become the perfect parent and the perfect teacher or the perfect, professional. Manage attention spans with children, because especially with young children, they have small attention span. Morning times are very optimal for children. They are very active and very receptive to learning. So let's try and see if we can manage our work schedules. Maybe we can schedule our call, the more serious ones, for afternoons. So that morning time we are there to support them in their learning. Because they are a bundle of energy, especially young children. They get up and they are raring to go. So they want to explore every corner, they want to explore everything. So that is the time, if we can give them a little bit of time, and if we can manage our schedules, that will really, really help them come up the learning curve and feel happy and feel safe in an environment. And lastly, I think learn to be grateful. So gratefulness is something that on a daily basis We need to talk to our children what went well today, and if something did not go well as planned, tomorrow is going to be a better day, and we will plan for things in a better way, and ask them how they were feeling. Did something in the day go that they did not like? Did we not come up to their expectations? Because children also have expectations. So indulge them, give them that window of opportunity to really express themselves and probably come up, learn new things from them. So that is something. And express our feelings so that they feel safe to express their feelings. So these are some of the things that I think I touched upon. So yes, thank you.
One very sweet comment from Dr. Meenu Bhatnagar once again is that I think that we have covered that part. No, not yet. But my granddaughter says to everyone, "Do not go out." Modi uncle has said, and Dadu, please put many swings at home. She is just 3.5-year old only.
Yeah, yeah. So she's getting so creative. She's thinking really out of the box and saying that if we cannot go home, let the playground and swings come to our home.
Come to our
So
home. Yes.
yes. So yes. So as parents, let's really think how we can really create these opportunities of play with our children, for play with our children.
One more question is from Elizabeth Thomas. That is, do you think that children should be given an opportunity to meet their friends virtually?
Yeah. Good evening, Elizabeth. Yes. So uh, it will all depend depend on their schedule, right? There are slightly older children who have much more access to digital platform, and they of course are able to manage their work. They are able to manage their schedules, and if they want to go, maybe set aside a time in a maybe twice a week or something. Set up a routine or a schedule. Let it not just be on a daily basis, but yes, we can work around a schedule for reaching out to their friends also and reaching out to the family also. So this is something that we can definitely work on, and we should, because we are social beings, right? We all want to connect with people whom we like, and peer group is something that all of us are really learn from and really crave each other's company. So let them not be deprived of it. It could be a phone call, maybe talking to your friend over phone, and that I leave to the parents. I mean, to decide the medium for communication. So otherwise, as parents, you can have play dates. So
One is
yeah,
from Mrs. Ruchi Gera. She is saying that my son is doing party on his birthday on 15th of June on Zoom with friends.
wow,
So
yeah. So
many, many happy
necessity,
returns of the day, ma'am, in advance.
yes, yes. Warm wishes to your son on his birthday, Vicky.
Right. So I'm looking for some more. So I think that is for now, ma'am. And there are a lot many compliments and other comments. And this session is quite a fruitful one for the parents and educators. And we would like to hear from you more in upcoming sessions, definitely. So before we end this session today, any last message you would like to convey to our spectators today?
Yeah, so thank you so much for Global Education Institute for giving me this opportunity. So I hope that I have been able to really share my thoughts, and I hope that you can resonate with some of the things that I have shared. And congratulations to Global Education Institute for doing, to have hosting such webinars where we can connect virtually in this times of physical isolation. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on this platform and giving us your precious time today, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Thank
Stay
you. Have a
safe,
good day,
stay
all of
home.
you. Yes. Be well. Stay together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.